stop the boats. I can confirm Meghan has a job.
Put a postcode on them and said return to sender.
The State Department is reviewing nearly 300 documents relating to Prince Harry's immigration application.
The Heritage Foundation's ongoing desire to prove Prince Harry lied on his immigration documents about his drug use is likely to have played a key role in this forced deportation.
British public will not stand for it. Absolutely not stand for it.
Meghan Markle's possible return to Britain has not even properly started, and already the story around her and Prince Harry is turning into a full-blown mess. Meghan may have a new UK entertainment job waiting for her. Harry's American immigration records are still facing scrutiny. A huge legal cost battle is hanging over him. Security could become another expensive public argument. And back in Britain, the royal family may be in no mood to make this comeback easy.
This is just the start of a horror return.
Before we get into today's story, I wanted to let you know that I finally launched my Patreon. Many of you have been asking for more royal family content, so that's exactly what I'll be posting there. Exclusive investigations, bonus videos, breaking royal news, and members-only discussions that won't be available on YouTube. If you're interested, you'll find the link in the description. Now, let's get into today's story. So, is this really just a couple preparing to spend more time in the UK? Or are Meghan and Harry trying to rebuild an entire life that has been drifting away from them in California? Because the first major twist is Meghan herself.
There's a reason Meghan Markle has just signed a big bucks entertainment role, because her husband, Prince Harry, is facing financial ruin after this bombshell courtroom decision this afternoon.
For years, Harry was the obvious one looking back toward Britain. Meghan appeared to have built her future somewhere else. California, Hollywood, lifestyle projects, glossy television, business launches, and the constant message that she had moved beyond royal life. Now that picture may be changing fast.
You don't just suddenly one day say you're coming back unless you've done some preparatory work. Nobody buys a house, or, off Facebook or off online. You've got to know what the property is. Maybe they had people, go and have a look at whatever house it is for them, and also getting the kids signed up for school. That is not something that you do online. Surely they will have taken some sort of care as to what schools the kids are going to.
Just as speculation about a Sussex return to Britain started getting louder, Meghan was linked to a possible entertainment role in the UK. The details are still vague. It could be television, it could connect to food, lifestyle, or hosting. It could be a recurring appearance rather than some giant acting comeback. But the exact title is almost beside the point right now. The important part is that Meghan may suddenly have her own professional reason to be in Britain, and that is extremely convenient timing.
It was actually all done after MasterChef Australia. That didn't even go well. They hated her on set.
Yeah, it makes me think she's dropping a little hint there. I think you said it as someone's backed her, or a show that she likes backed, and I think she put baked. Is she going to do another baking, like a cooking show? Is she going to, Dan, she's going to appear alongside Holly Willoughby.
Oh, God.
Until now, one of the most obvious problems with a serious UK move was simple. Harry had emotional, family, and charitable reasons to return. But what exactly was in it for Meghan? Her public image after leaving royal life was built around America. Her projects were built there. Her celebrity ambitions were built there. Her home was there. A British entertainment job changes that calculation immediately.
And I wasn't joking about the jam coming over in the tanker. I'm sure she's going to be trying to sell the jam in this country, because that was apparently it was a plan of hers.
Suddenly, Harry is not dragging Meghan back into his world. Meghan may have business of her own waiting on the other side of the Atlantic. That does not prove some giant master plan, but it certainly makes the return easier to explain. And Meghan's recent career direction makes a role like this more believable than it might have sounded a few years ago.
To me, it's all about trying to take away the growing suggestion that, well, of course there's trouble in the relationship, because otherwise there's no way that she would have agreed to return to the country that she hates.
She has spent a long time moving away from the image of a traditional actress and towards something much more controlled. Food, hosting, lifestyle, appearances, personal branding, and television built around Meghan being Meghan. That means she does not need a huge drama series to make a UK job useful. A regular entertainment slot could be enough.
The State Department is reviewing nearly 300 documents relating to Prince Harry's immigration application. That's nearly 2,500 pages worth of documents.
Say that again.
It gives her visibility, it keeps her name in the press, it puts her on television without forcing her to carry an entire production. And most importantly, it gives her a reason to be physically present in Britain while Harry is also trying to rebuild his own connections there. Two different careers, suddenly pointing toward the same country.
But don't worry, Meghan is really coming back because she has a huge role, which is just going to make her lots of money. And of course, she hasn't been forced to come back to the United Kingdom to save the marriage. No, of course not.
Very convenient. But before this gets sold as Meghan Markle's triumphant British comeback, there is a major problem. Nobody has established exactly what this job is. The headlines can run faster than the facts. A major acting role? Not confirmed. A lifestyle or food-related appearance? Possible. A television presenting position? Possible. A much smaller role than the dramatic speculation suggests? Also possible.
The whole thing is rushed because Harry and Meghan had no idea what the feds were up to when the feds started to investigate all of the papers that he submitted starting on the 11th of August. And today is now the 20th of August. So we're speaking about 8 or 9 days. So obviously the whole thing is rushed because the axe is in danger of dropping.
Still, even a modest job would answer the question that has followed Meghan for years. Why would she willingly spend serious time in a country she seems so determined to leave behind? Now, she may have an answer. Harry, meanwhile, has a completely different set of reasons to keep looking toward Britain. And one of the most uncomfortable is still sitting in America. The battle over his immigration records has not vanished.
The Heritage Foundation's ongoing desire to prove Prince Harry lied on his immigration documents about his drug use is likely to have played a key role in this forced deportation.
The State Department is reviewing 307 documents connected to Harry's immigration application, totaling close to 2,500 pages. An initial set of 18 documents was reviewed and not released, but the wider attempt to obtain more material has continued. That point needs to be handled carefully. This does not prove Harry lied on an application.
But I then wonder how the other claimants feel about Harry now. Can you imagine?
Because they didn't sign it.
They didn't sign it, but if it's affected all of them because of Harry running his mouth off.
It does not prove he is being removed from the United States. It does not prove his status has been canceled. None of those conclusions can honestly be made from the fact that records are being reviewed. But it does mean the story is still alive. And that is what makes the timing of all this so awkward. If Harry's position in America were completely boring, settled and forgotten, the immigration case would barely matter to a UK return story.
The judge in his case against the Daily Mail has decided, and this is the right decision, by the way, I back him 100%, that the costs will be uncapped, meaning that Harry and his bunch of hapless celebrities, including Elton John, could be on the hook for £34.5 million.
Instead, hundreds of documents remain part of an ongoing review while Harry is simultaneously being linked with a stronger return to Britain. Maybe those two things are completely separate, but then Meghan gets linked to a UK job at the same time. And then another problem lands on top of everything else. Money. Harry has also been hit by a major legal cost development in the case involving Associated Newspapers.
I think they're desperate. I think they're desperate because they run out of any hope of conquering Hollywood. They're isolated in America. I think the money is running down. And I think as well that Harry is terribly concerned that he could lose his titles. I think he's desperate about his status in Britain. And he's lonely in America.
The claimants were ordered to make an interim payment of £9.5 million, while the total costs were left uncapped, and the final amount remains unresolved through the costs process. Again, the distinction matters. It would be misleading to say Harry personally received a £34.5 million bill. The huge figures being discussed relate to the claimant side as a whole. Harry's exact individual exposure is not settled, and insurance is expected to cover at least the immediate interim payment. But that does not make the situation comfortable.
For Harry, this is as bad as it could be. He has lost comprehensively, been told by the court that he pursued the claims unreasonably to a high degree, and now faces potential liability of $45 million with a $12.4 million down payment due within days. Good thing Meghan has the acting job.
The costs are still unresolved. The ceiling has not been neatly fixed. Further legal steps can create more risk. And for Harry, this arrives after years of expensive disputes involving newspapers, security, and other court battles. So suddenly, Meghan possibly adding a UK paycheck to the family picture becomes much more interesting. No, that does not mean she accepted a job to pay Harry's lawyers. There is no basis to state that as fact. But when a couple already has an extremely expensive lifestyle, and another financial uncertainty appears at exactly the same time, one of them is looking at new work, people are obviously going to notice the timing.
Well, this is a private matter. It's a matter for Harry and for Meghan, and we wish them well in the move that they're making.
No, we don't. No, we don't. And it's not private. It's literally the definition of public.
This is where the Grand Sussex return starts looking less like a glamorous homecoming and more like a financial rearrangement. Think about the amount of money required to keep all the pieces moving. Montecito is expensive. Private security is expensive. Travel is expensive. Staff cost money. New business ventures require money before they ever make money. Legal fights can drain millions.
This vile guy, and about how vile he has been in regards to the family he claims to now care about.
Just physically being in California, how have you processed the fact that there's so much happening back with your family where you come from?
I have my own family,
right?
So as we all do,
yeah.
right? So, my family and my life in California is as it is.
Scumbag. He doesn't give a damn about anyone here.
A serious long-term base in Britain would add another layer. Any additional European property or regular transatlantic lifestyle makes the picture even more complicated. How many expensive versions of life can one couple realistically maintain at the same time? Something eventually has to give. And Britain offers Harry and Meghan one thing California has never been able to guarantee forever: immediate royal relevance.
She is a narcissist. She's not going to handle being booed. She's not going to like people being negative about her. She's not going to get a good reception. Harry struggles to get a good reception. And this is why they have carefully controlled crowds wherever they go. You know, like we saw in Australia, they had a small segment of Sydney Opera House, nothing like the real royals got, or even when they went over there. But it's done so the camera angles make it look like there's crowds of people around them.
The problem is that moving back to Britain is not the same thing as being welcomed back into royal life. That may be the most important distinction in this entire story. Harry can live in the UK, Meghan can work in the UK, they can rent or buy a home, they can attend private events, they can build new schedules, but none of that automatically gives them their old royal position back.
It's 6 a.m. on the 14th of March, and we are on the Freedom flight. We are leaving Canada, and we are headed to Los Angeles. Grandma's here. Hi, Grandma. Brutus here, with a ball in her mouth.
Why'd you say hi? You're about to go where Mommy's from.
So busy.
Even the question of where they might live has already become part of the tension. Windsor has been mentioned as an obvious possibility, yet one report claims William does not want Windsor to become a Sussex base. Other locations have been floated, including the Cotswolds and areas closer to the Spencer side of Harry's family. Nothing final has been established. But look at what the discussion itself reveals. Harry is not even fully back, and people are already debating how close he should be allowed to get to the center of royal life. That is the real fight.
There's no way that she can survive without him and his status. And she herself is humiliated by her failures. So it makes sense for them to come back to Britain. But whether the royal family really is going to welcome them, I must say I doubt.
Not whether he can physically return to Britain. The deeper question is whether Harry can rebuild the appearance of being royal without officially becoming a working royal again. Imagine how easily that could happen. Harry returns to Britain. He becomes more visible with major charities. He attends public events. He reconnects with causes that once formed a big part of his royal identity. Cameras turn up.
And she needs to rebrand herself and get back to being the full-on Duchess of Sussex as much as she can be. So I think there's a degree of cynicism about it, but I can see what they're trying to achieve, which is being able to, you say they're members of the royal family, but on their own terms.
Newspapers run pictures of Prince Harry back on British soil. Television coverage begins to look familiar again. On paper, he remains a private member of the royal family. On screen, however, he starts looking increasingly royal. That is how the old half-in, half-out problem can creep back into the picture without anyone ever making a formal announcement. And Meghan would benefit from that atmosphere too.
Of course there are finances involved in this decision. Of course King Charles's health is involved in this decision. But the overarching thing is that they're deeply unhappy and the marriage is in trouble.
Her celebrity value has always been strongest when the royal connection is visible. Meghan in California has to compete with hundreds of actors, entrepreneurs, influencers, presenters, and bigger Hollywood names for attention. The Duchess of Sussex returning to Britain does not have the same problem. That is instantly a national story. She does not even need the palace to give her an official role. If Harry can rebuild enough royal-looking relevance through charities and public appearances, while Meghan works in British entertainment,
and whether we like it or not, the slightly bad-boyed image that he's created is perhaps more interesting than the royal family just quietly going about their business. So I think the royal family will be, at the moment, deeply frustrated, and particularly William, because they'll be thinking, what's behind this? What is they need?
the couple can create the impression of being closer to royal life again without technically returning as working royals. They do not need the door thrown wide open. They only need it open far enough for everyone to keep asking whether they are halfway back inside. And that is exactly why resistance from the royal family matters. William does not need to make this entire story about himself. He simply needs to maintain clear boundaries.
I can confirm Meghan has a job. The identity of the show is not yet clear, but it allows Harry at last to get her buy-in for his growing desire to get the hell out of paradise and go home to the world he understands.
If Windsor is not available, Sussex proximity is reduced. If official duties remain off-limits, Harry has to build relevance through another route. If private family meetings are kept completely separate from public royal work, then a quiet return gives Meghan and Harry much less brand value than a visible royal-adjacent comeback. So the real question is not whether Harry can come home. It is how close Harry and Meghan can get to the royal machine before somebody shuts the door. Housing becomes part of that strategy too.
Last year, he claimed there was no logistical way for him to return to the UK because of what some people in this country had done.
I can't see a world in which I would be bringing my wife and children back to the UK at this point. And the things that they're going to miss is, well, everything. You know, I love my country. I always have done, despite what some people in that country have done.
If Windsor is not an option, where do they go? The Cotswolds has been discussed. Northamptonshire, closer to Harry's Spencer relatives, has also been mentioned. Harry's relationship with Charles Spencer makes that idea interesting, even though there is no confirmed final plan. But every location leads back to the same question. Do they want a normal private home? Or do they want a home positioned close enough to royal territory to keep the cameras, speculation, and connections alive? Those are two very different things.
That I won't be able to show, my children my homeland.
It's amazing what running out of money does.
A quiet property far away could give them privacy. A carefully selected base near the royal orbit could give them relevance. And for the Sussex brand, relevance has always been incredibly valuable. Then comes security. This has never been just an emotional issue for Harry. It is also a potentially enormous financial one. Private protection at the level Harry and Meghan use can cost millions over time. Harry has spent years challenging the arrangements surrounding his protection in Britain.
The big block is Prince William and Catherine, who under no circumstances, in my view, would allow these traitors, these lecherous, to get their way back into the royal family. I don't believe for a moment that Harry and Meghan will be on the Sandringham Christmas walk. It would be absolutely inconceivable. And I don't think the king would even allow them to do that because they're not working royals.
If living in the UK, carrying out high-profile charity work, or becoming more publicly visible strengthens his case for a different protection arrangement, the financial impact could be significant. But there is no confirmed basis to say that simply returning to Britain would automatically give Harry taxpayer-funded security. That has not been established. What is clear is that the argument is not going away.
So look at this. From the New York Post, our long national nightmare is over, they declared. And there's been a lot of this. Cat Turd writing, great, get the F out of our country, grifters, two of the most least impressive, no talented people on planet Earth. We don't want you here, never wanted you here, see ya.
And if public money ever does become part of the conversation, the reaction could be brutal. Because the palace may not even be the biggest obstacle to this comeback. The British public could be. One poll cited around the return put opposition to Harry and Meghan coming back as high as 84% among those surveyed. One poll does not speak for every person in the country, but it highlights the obvious danger. They are not returning to universal excitement. And public reaction cannot be controlled the way a television appearance can. What happens at the first major event? Do people cheer?
Put a postcode on them and said return to sender. If you can't find out where they belong, return them to us. We don't want them returned to us. Send them somewhere else. Send them bloody anywhere else.
Stop the boats. With that picture, we're broke, so we're back. Yeah, true.
Do they stay quiet? Do they boo? Meghan can have the perfect outfit. Harry can have the perfect schedule. Their team can choose the right venue, the right photographers, the right arrival, and the right talking points. They cannot control thousands of people standing outside. That is where a carefully planned Sussex comeback could become embarrassing very quickly. A royal-style return only works visually if the crowd helps create the picture. Imagine Meghan's first major British appearance after years away.
But Harry is lying. Meghan is lying. We must not forget they hate us. And I'm not exaggerating. They hate us for voting for Brexit, which they think makes us racist. They hate us for loving Prince William and Princess Catherine, the biggest victims in all of this. And it was never meant to be this way.
Cameras are lined up, the entrance is ready, every detail has been polished. The expectation is that the story will be Meghan's return. Then the crowd reaction becomes the story instead. That is the risk no editing team can remove afterward. And it affects Harry too. The more he tries to build a public role that resembles his old royal life, the more exposed both of them become to direct reaction from ordinary people. That matters because their entire strategy depends on attention translating into legitimacy.
There's no way that she's suddenly got an acting job that's so big for her. This is so huge. It justifies her moving, giving up California, giving up all of her friends. She's finally got in with a set, multi-millionaires that let her use their private jets and their holiday homes. And she's coming over for a little acting job. She couldn't get work while she was in America, Dan. I mean, living in LA.
Meghan's possible entertainment job needs viewers and interest. Harry's charity work benefits from credibility. Their broader return only works if Britain is willing to treat them as important figures again. If the first months are instead dominated by arguments over security, awkward crowds, royal boundaries, and money, the comeback narrative could collapse before Meghan's project even gets properly started. So why take the risk? Why trade California sunshine, privacy, and distance for all of this noise? That is where the entire story starts making sense. America was supposed to prove that Harry and Meghan did not need royal life anymore.
Meghan leaking the news of this entertainment return seems to me to be to try and take away the growing suggestions of trouble in the marriage. Because, of course, if she did have no work lined up here, it makes it abundantly clear that she is having to do something she didn't want to do. So by being able to say, there's a big job, but she's not revealing what the job is, she's not revealing how long the job is. I mean, what, is she going to be an EastEnders? I mean, otherwise it's going to be a particularly short shoot. If you're doing a movie, unless she's really committed to like a big TV series, but that seems unlikely.
They had the mansion, streaming contracts, interviews, celebrity connections, business launches, new brands. the freedom to create an identity completely separate from the monarchy. But after all these years, what is still the most powerful thing attached to both of their names? Royalty. Harry is still most instantly recognizable as a prince. Meghan is still most instantly recognizable as the Duchess of Sussex. Whenever an independent project struggles to dominate attention, the royal connection pulls the spotlight back toward them. Britain gives them direct access to that spotlight.
This has been a plan that's been underway for some time. This is not suddenly, them sitting there having a quiet drink in the evening, saying, "Well, why don't we just move? Let's go back." Something has happened. Something has happened to persuade Meghan that it's worth it to come and live in the UK.
For Harry, it offers familiarity, family connections, charities he understands, and a public identity he has never fully replaced in America. For Meghan, a UK entertainment job could finally give her an independent reason to be there instead of simply following Harry. That is why there may not be one single dramatic explanation for this possible return. It could be several pressures arriving at exactly the same time. Harry's immigration records remain under scrutiny. Legal costs have become another headache. Their lifestyle remains extremely expensive. Harry clearly has reasons to strengthen his British ties. Meghan may now have professional work there.
To me, it smells like divorce. Meghan hates the UK, and the feeling is largely returned. She won't want to leave California and her friends. None of it makes sense outside the separation. Nancy Sidley adding, "I agree. This has divorce written all over it."
And royal proximity creates a level of publicity California cannot always guarantee. Put all of that together, and the return begins to look much more logical. Then, of course, there is the marriage question. But this is where the story can easily become exaggerated. Harry has long appeared more emotionally connected to Britain than Meghan. Meghan spent years building a life that pointed in almost the opposite direction. If Harry seriously wanted to spend far more time back home, that difference was always going to create a practical problem for the couple.
Personalities here in the UK are not accepting the return to sender approach, with Katie Hopkins losing it in a hilarious manner upon learning of the news this morning.
We're waking up to the brilliant news that Prince Harry, formerly known as Prince, is going to come back to the UK. Oh yes, with trailer trash Meghan Markle. Having failed spectacularly at everything they've ever tried to do in America, including start businesses, be quasi-royals and hand out soup in kitchens to Palestinian women and try to be celebrities, that failed. Now, with their tail between their legs, they plan on coming back to the UK to use the only leverage they have left, which is that Harry used to be a royal. They're not even going to be working royals. They're just going to rock up and get free housing.
A UK job for Meghan does not prove their marriage was collapsing. It does not prove this move is designed to rescue the relationship. But it does solve one very obvious conflict. Harry wants more Britain. Meghan may now have her own reason to want Britain too. On paper, that allows them to try to keep both worlds. The bigger question is whether Britain will let them. Because once again, Harry and Meghan appear to be reaching for a combination that may be almost impossible to maintain. Private independence, celebrity money, royal status, public importance, major security, and the freedom to operate without traditional royal restrictions.
I think it's all designed exactly that, to show, look, we are still very much, we are members of the royal family, not working royals, but look, I am going to be the brother of the future king. So that is very much part and parcel of his modus operandi.
Can all of those things exist together? That is the gamble behind this entire comeback. Meghan may have found a new professional opening. Harry may have found a clearer route back toward home. But the problems are piling up before a single moving box has been packed. His American immigration records remain under review. His legal costs could still hurt. Their lifestyle costs serious money. Security could trigger another public fight. Royal access may remain tightly controlled.
Like, they are officially together, but the marriage is in deep trouble. They've been deeply unhappy for some time. The new acting job's so intriguing. When I sat down with them both on their engagement for that interview, one of my questions was whether she was really prepared to give up the career she had built. And the point is, she just doesn't have a choice now.
Windsor may not be available, and the British public could deliver a welcome very different from the one their team would want photographed. So, this is not simply Meghan and Harry returning to the UK. It is Meghan and Harry testing whether they can rebuild the most valuable parts of the life they walked away from without giving up the freedom, money, and celebrity identity they gained afterward. A British job for Meghan, royal relevance for Harry, celebrity independence for both, security, status, attention, money. They appear to want all of it. But what if Britain only gives them pieces?
Nothing's really stuck. So actually, he's got to go back to what he knows best, which is come back to Britain and try and cash in somehow, whether it is doing charity work. But how's he going to earn a living? Because this is going to be an expensive still lifestyle.
What if Meghan's mystery job turns out to be far smaller than the hype? What if Harry's royal comeback never moves beyond private family contact and charity appearances? What if the security dispute becomes louder instead of disappearing? What if one hostile crowd turns the carefully planned return into another public relations nightmare? And what if, after years spent trying to prove that they could create something bigger outside the monarchy?
There was a poll this morning about the move, and 84% of people in the UK involved in this poll said we don't want Harry and Meghan to be here.
Meghan and Harry end up returning to the one country that reminds everyone exactly why the world cared about them in the first place. That is why this story is so explosive. They are not simply changing where they live. They may be testing the entire Sussex experiment all over again. If you enjoyed this video and want even more royal family content, don't forget to check out my Patreon. I'm uploading exclusive investigations, bonus content, and members-only videos that won't be released on YouTube. I'll be adding new content regularly. If you'd like to support the channel and get access to everything, the link is in the description. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.